We're back on the Exit 52 podcast, presented as always by Jimmy's Famous Seafood. It is Thursday night, September 19th, 7:39 p.m. My name is Jake Louque. I'm joined by Real Fan Dan, a.k.a. Spenny. We are here to preview the Baltimore Ravens shootout at high noon with the Cowboys in Dallas. How we feeling, pal? I couldn't really find a legit Cowboy hat, so I kind of just threw the Billick straw hat on here. I feel like it's working, though.
Fair enough. Fired up for this one, excited for this one. Everybody, I think, is a little nervous, antsy in the pants, but it feels like the Ravens are not. I genuinely do not think they are. They are not used to losing, and hopefully the Orioles, who were not used to losing, have not rubbed off on them. Anthony Santander walk-off today was fantastic, so that definitely improved the mood here. But excited, fired up, watched some Cowboys-Saints. Didn't get to watch a ton of the Browns Cowboys game, but man, two teams that feel like they're in a very similar spot. While the Cowboys do have one single notch on their belt, they're 1-1. The Ravens have a pretty dire situation before them, as we discussed throughout the week. And now where they are, I think that there was a lot of calmness coming out of Todd Monken, John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, all the players this week. And they did the classic, we had our best practices. And I think that a big narrative right now is that scoring's down across the NFL, which it is. We've talked about that on the Jumbo Set too. 2.14 touchdowns per game per team, lowest in 20 years.
I think we should ban 2 high safeties.
We should ban 2 high safeties, but safeties shouldn't be allowed at all. Make these guys strap up.
Just let them walk on the field, honestly. Just have the defense part the Red Sea, and they'll just kind of form a victory kind of tunnel for the offenses to walk through. Just have them walk through that. They'll even do some high fives on the left and right side, and then they'll just walk the ball into the end zone, and that'll be football.
It will be. Mina Kimes, Ben Solak on their show got into it over at ESPN and talking about how it feels like defenses are just giving the B gap to good quarterbacks. When you play Mahomes, you're like, please take the B gap. Please, we'll put a safety over a guard and leave him uncovered in the box. Please just run the football. So the New Orleans Saints did that to the Cowboys and blew them up, lit them on fire, burned down Cowboys Stadium. And going through their game, kind of we'll get in some tape. We'll get into all the other takes. But just a piss-poor performance. Micah Parsons went on his podcast the next day and said, that's just not us. That is not our brand of football. That is not who we are. What the heck? And I see what he means, man. The tackling was just a joke. The linebackers were a joke. Nobody rallying to the football. They let the Saints do whatever they wanted through the air, on the ground, just kind of slow, lazy, sloppy. And that's dangerous. I think that's very dangerous for this Ravens team. You're not going to a team that doesn't have expectations. This isn't like the Broncos with Bo Nix or something. And it's not like playing the Chiefs right now, who like edged out 2 close games against tough teams that they've been battling with and defeating. But it's a team that in the Cowboys that has 2 straight home games, the pressure of being a Dallas Cowboy, second home game for them. I don't anticipate seeing that similar performance. So I think a lot going into this one. And man, the betting lines here, a pick 'em pretty much. And I think these offenses have a lot of similarities in terms of how they're struggling in ways that looks a little different, do some different things, different personnel, but it's just not clicking cleanly offensively for these teams. And these defenses are not quite turning in stellar performances yet. So we talked about it on the Jumbo Set. It's a real loser leaves town must win for both teams.
Yeah, it's Ravens, I think, opened as a 1-point favorite. That line has held up to the point of this recording, which is interesting to me because you mentioned that both teams in obviously the same position here with the 0-2 record, with the fact that they're struggling in some similar ways here. I think the Cowboys obviously, the Cowboys aren't 0-2. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the Cowboys, they probably feel 0-2 in some ways, given the way that they had that kind of resounding kind of triumphant victory in week 1. They probably felt pretty good about their season. And then they go into their own house at Jerry World and they just get run off the dance floor by the New Orleans Saints. And you mentioned some of the things that they did schematically there, where they just invited them to run the ball. Alvin Kamara obviously having a huge game, and Derek Carr really sort of mounting what will hopefully for him be a really resurgent season here. Lamar Jackson is not in that place. He doesn't really need to do that, but dropping to 0-3, I mean, that's just something that he's never been there before, maybe in his entire life. I know Marlon Humphrey was talking about that with Jack on their podcast. Like, I've never been 0-2 before. And Jack was like, he probably never have been, because he certainly was not at Alabama. He hasn't been with the Ravens up to this point. This is the first time that he's been in this position. And you talk about the fact that, you know, it's just kind of, that's just kind of where they're at right now. And they're not panicking about it, which is, I think it can be interpreted as a good thing. I think some people maybe not as comfortable with it. I know there's been plenty of snarky comments about Marlon being on the podcast, and like you're always going to see that. I think even when the going is good with these players having podcasts, it's just kind of a new thing that we're going to have to adapt to. But overall, I to be fair, we are kind of the Cowboys now from Cassidy there in the comments. I think, you know, it's probably a pretty fair comparison, where it's two teams that tend to have all the hype in the world. The Ravens, I think there's less sort of pressure around them as just a franchise writ large, but two teams that have kind of wilted in big spots, you know, throughout the years. Certainly the Ravens, I think, have had a little bit more triumph in the postseason. It doesn't always, certainly doesn't feel that way right now, but I don't know. It's just like you said, loser leaves town, shootout at the OK Corral. It's just kind of one of those games where one team is going to walk out feeling a little bit better about themselves. One team is going to walk out of this game just feeling just utter desperation. And they're going to have a much, I think, bigger hole that they're going to have to crawl their way out of. So I don't know, an intriguing matchup for sure.
And it does feel different, right? Something just feels a little different in this Ravens team, being in this situation. The calmness, I'm not sure if it's settling. I'm not sure that I feel settled by it. The aura feels a little different. And again, maybe it's simply because they're 0-2. And they usually start so hot. The success of Harbaugh through September is well documented. And two coaches, right? Mike McCarthy, John Harbaugh, Super Bowl winners one time a while ago now. And two coaches that are certainly having high-paid quarterbacks, solid rosters, expectations are very high. The tension in fan base is very high. The Cowboys following obviously so much bigger than the Ravens, but feeling a little bit of pressure. So who's going to be a diamond? We shall see. Tough spot. I mean, neither division kind of is cruising. So I think that gives both teams a little bit of calmness. It's not like there's a juggernaut in the AFC North or the NFC East. The Eagles blowing a home lead, letting Kirk Cousins walk down the field. The Giants struggling. The Commanders have a rookie quarterback. Your Pittsburgh fighting Steelers are 2-0. Haven't really played anyone yet. They have a tough game with Jimmy Harbaugh's fighting Justin Herbert's coming to town, smacking him on the back. So Bengals, Browns having their own issues as well. So maybe we think it's a lot more dire than it is as fans, but the expectation is what creates disappointment when disappointment can be served as a cold dish. So a lot of comments this week. I think there's some fun clips we wanted to get into. We mentioned the Mina Kimes and Solak. Chris Long, I would say my two favorite, I tweeted this today, my two favorite pieces to consume are Matt Harmon and Nate Tice's show, who I've been a fan of those guys for a couple years. Definitely check them out, as well as Chris Long's Greenlight show. And he talked about Roger Rosengarten forever on that show. There's a clip that went around about 2 minutes. He circled back. His longest segment in like an hour and a half show was Roger Rosengarten. He talked about him, changed topic, brought it back to him, changed topic, and brought it back to him a third time. So certainly check that out for some good perspective. We have a clip here from that.
Yeah, I trimmed it for brevity, but it's still pretty long, so just kind of bear with us on it. He has a lot of good stuff to say, so I think what I put in there is pretty worth it.
Max Crosby lit that game on fire. They couldn't even get situated, but he's definitely wrecking the pass game, right? This guy, Rosengarten, he comes in the game, and I'm like, holy shit, is he blocking Max Crosby a little bit? And this is 2 minutes at the end of the half. So, like, he's getting a drive where they're throwing the ball. But then when it gets down to it, it's like this isn't one of those possessions where they're just running the ball and Max doesn't get any opportunities. Like, this kid's setting out and he's dancing with Max Crosby. And he's doing the mirror drill a little bit. Now, it could be a circumstance of Max Crosby wasn't ready for the rotating factor and, like, it just threw him off. It could be the fact that Rosengarten has some length, you know, and Max Crosby's got great length. That's the differentiating factor with Max Crosby. He'll be running right at you and closing the distance, and you're thinking this guy's jogging, but he's closing the distance. And this Rosengarten kid has some good length, and he's blocking him. And I know it's just one series, and then they yank him, and I'm watching Macari. You know, he's doing a fine job in the run game and that sort of thing, but he's surviving out on the edge in pass pro. They put this kid Rosengarten back in, and it's like when he's in, nothing catastrophic happens. I went back and looked at the Kansas City game, and he gave up a sack to Chris Jones, and maybe I didn't get to all the plays on the back of the game, but for the most part, what I saw was a guy who's ready to play. He's ready for the big show.
A lot to love there. I love the leaned back pose, kind of very relaxed. Reminds me of the Mike Pereira cut-ins we used to get on Fox. Just kind of lean back. He'll give you his analysis of what the sort of referee did right or wrong there. I love the NFL shield behind him. Just a lot to like there.
Yeah, there are. And we have Chris Robinson in the comments here. He says, sorry I'm joining late, but hope you're addressing how much of an issue Monken is to the dumpster fire as Harbaugh is. Monken hasn't called a good game in a long time now. And I do think that it's a product. What Chris Long gets to is going to tie into this point. What he comes back to, which was a very good point, something Cole talks about a little bit too when we're just chatting, it's that the Ravens don't have world beaters at receiver, such a hot topic throughout the fan base for so long and in Ravens commentary and national media and everything. They don't have these world beaters out at receiver. We're going to look at the Saints, who Olave would probably be the best receiver on the Ravens, and Shaheed and what he's done, and the Ravens don't really have a Shaheed. But when you are struggling to protect the quarterback, you need help to protect the quarterback. How do you get help? You add additional blockers is one of those ways, especially in a true passing down. And we've seen Lamar motion in a Likely or an Andrews or a Kohler or someone. And I do also want to point out that can be a receiver is something I would like to see the Ravens maybe do a little bit. But the point is now you don't have a huge dynamic threat out wide that is getting shaded, bracketed, whatever you want to call it. And you're reducing the number of responsibilities and reducing the elimination pre-snap, the process of elimination for a linebacker, a safety. Okay, if he's coming in and chipping and I see him chip, then he's running a drag route or something. He's just going to pop out. I'm not worried. I can sit back. So then you don't have these crazy dynamic receivers, and you've got more coverage defenders probably. You don't feel threatened by the tight ends, and that's not what Todd Monken wants to do. Todd Monken wants to get 5-man protection, maybe use the back and some jet protection, stuff like that, and then have 4 or 5 guys to put stress on the defense. And when you don't have world-beating, very experienced, you don't have, it's all Devontae Adams. Cowboys are having some similar struggles, even with CeeDee Lamb. We'll get to that, but that's not the offense you want to run. And I will tie it back. We've said it 1,000 times this week, but play action is a huge answer. Chris Long goes on to basically say, if you put Rosengarten in, then you have Derrick Henry in the backfield. So if you think McCary's a better run blocker right now, Derrick Henry erases the bad run blocks. If a guy wins and gets their arm into the gap and can kind of get a hand on Henry, he's going to run right through it. That's why you signed him. So if you think that the best chance to win is to run more 4- and 5-man pass plays, concepts, however you want to call it, and then have the better pass protector, take it in the run game and take your lumps a little bit. That's why you get Derrick Henry. I think that's where the Ravens need to get to. And he gets into kind of some of the stuff that's been going around. You know, you can tell if the Ravens are going to run the ball, if Justice Hill is aligned here and Henry in certain situations. He has a great one-liner that is, he says, I think the great American compromise is pistol, where Henry still has his integrity as a runner. It's not a tell. And you can run some play action that way. It's good for Lamar Jackson. He obviously likes to run more out of shotgun and pistol and things like that, where he can see and maneuver and put stress on the defense without turning his back. But play action has to be a huge answer. The Saints chewed the Cowboys up, ate their lunch. Cowboys were just watching. They were watching football go by defensively. So we talk a lot about Faalele. Rosengarten has looked good. Like Long said, there could be some factors. I think he said, please don't make me look like a joker, Rosengarten, going out there against Micah Parsons. But yeah, that's why they brought him in. That's part of this offensive line equation. So then the question is, why isn't Rosengarten playing? I think they have a developmental plan for him, right? We see the Patriots who are about to play here say, hey, we have Drake May playing 30% of snaps with the first team. That's not normal. Rosengarten's playing 20, 30% of snaps, not a quarterback, but they're working him in. They're going to increase it. I would think in this game and the next game, you see Rosengarten become the full-time right tackle there.
And progression isn't linear either. Like, he could get in there and struggle a little bit too. I mean, he's a 2nd-round pick, right? We're not talking about Joe Alt here. Like, this is a guy that's going to have to take some lumps. And yeah, he looked good against Max Crosby. If they give Micah Parsons the green light and he makes his way over that way, maybe Micah Parsons has his way with him a little bit. You got DeMarcus Lawrence over there too anyway. So it could be a tough one for him in this game as well. But I think overall, it's just keep the faith. And like, I don't know, like the refrain that I feel like we heard as far as the construction of this offensive line was Todd Monken wants to rebuild it because he wants it to be younger and more athletic, and you can run some of the things that he likes to do. You'd really hope that that can start to take shape this week because they're going to need it based upon what we've seen over the first two.
Certainly. Beat Gamer here says Rosengarten's first snap was bull rushed by Chris Jones and he got got. I think that's not really what happened. They slid away from him and or maybe they slid to him, whatever. They slid. It wasn't like a one-on-one situation. He fucked up his leverage, first snap in Kansas City, all those kinds of things. In the comment here, Chris Jones is going to do that to you.
Yeah, and it just goes into that point that like it's not going to be perfect right off the bat no matter what.
Right, but it can allow you to run hopefully some more 5-man protection and get to it. And to your point, Jake, you mentioned Joe Alt. Harbaugh notoriously proves this point. I always say rookie offensive linemen stink. Harbaugh has only ever had Ronnie Stanley, who was a blue chip top 10 pick, and Tyler Linderbaum, another blue chip. Centers aren't going to go top 10 pretty much ever, but draft him in the first round. Those are the only two to ever start as rookies, and they struggled. Joe Alt looks great. There's 3 tackles that are currently starting in the NFL. It's Fuaga on the Saints, it is Joe Alt, and it is J.C. Latham in Tennessee. And those guys are playing like solid football. Alt, I think, got a lot of run for what he did in the Raiders game. And I think Crosby only lined up on him like 10 times, but he did a really good job and he is great. So like you said, progression's not linear and it's not normal to get quality play out of a rookie tackle. It's really not normal. So the guy on the Chiefs. So yes, Kingsley Sumatia is playing. He's playing piss poor. He is a sore spot. So there's 5 total tackles playing. The 3 that are playing, I would say solid, at least when you look at metrics and all that crap. I haven't watched all their games, but or most of them, but it's the 3 high picked guys. So Rosengarten, not quite that. When is he going to start? I would gamble. I'll put -150 this week and next week. So against the Bills at the latest.
And for the record, I think that is the right way to go. I'm just saying that it's not going to, again, it's just not going to be a linear, like we throw him in there and everything is fixed right away.
And then someone says he stinks and then he lets up a sack and then he's like, see, it doesn't matter. He's playing, it's going to go round and around and around on the merry-go-round. Speaking of the merry-go-round, Daniel Faalele, who has struggled. We've talked about that to the point of puking it up almost. The comments that we got out of Ben Cleveland were posted in the Baltimore Sun here. Tyler Guyton, that's a good point. Yeah, Tyler Guyton, another first rounder. I missed that one. You're right. So comments here from Ben Cleveland that we can pull up for our visual viewers. Russell Street Report quoted it, and he goes on to say that he just was injured a little bit. He's taken snaps at center, at left guard. Cole makes the point a lot that he's played tackle also and looked competent there when he played tackle. So Ben Cleveland with a really nice professional answer about it. Non sequitur, as you like to say, Jake, where he doesn't get himself in any trouble, says he's ready to go, and he will defer to his, ability to keep working. He said he thought
it was in direct response to what you could call for John Harbaugh relatively scathing comments, I would say, about the fact that he just did not outplay Faalele based upon what they saw in camp and preseason, which I think that you can even debate that, but that was essentially in response to that, which is interesting that you're kind of seeing them in one way or another trading barbs a little bit here through the media.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cleveland, it's a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. The big sacks in key situations that Faalele is allowed is not ideal. So yeah, a real fan of Dan Faalele is my name for the podcast today, because at this point, there's nothing else. There's nothing we can do as fans.
I'm sorry. I thought you were just making a real fan Dan reference.
Oh no, real fan of Dan Faalele. So at this point, you hope the guy, we have it in the comments here. Hopefully he can just pick up some stunts, man. I mean, that's it. That's it. You've fucked up on stunts for 2 weeks, so time to get it right, man. And I went as far. I will be buying a Daniel Faalele jersey, and I will be wearing said jersey if he has no pressures, no sacks allowed. And I said the hack to that is if the Ravens kind of do more towards what the Saints did, run 10, 12 play actions in this game. And that will help him. There will be less of a chance for those pressures and those sacks. So I'm hoping that I go buy a big kangaroo jersey, and hopefully some folks will help me buy some merch of Faalele if it exists. I don't know. All we can do now is hope that the kid grows in a new position.
Yeah, like let him, this is not Daniel Faalele's fault. Right? Like, let's not, tweet at him and do all this kind of nasty stuff. I know whatever, like some people are going to do that. I totally understand that that's just something that is going to exist, but and we also don't have to take it in the cringeworthy like Trey Turner thing here, where we're, giving him the standing ovation if he does pick up a stunt. But overall, it's just like he's been put in this position. It's not like, I don't think he's like lobbying against Ben Cleveland or doing anything like that. So he's trying his best. He should not be put in this position. Like we've been saying with some of these guys on the Orioles the last couple of months, he's just kind of doing what he can. And it's interesting. We probably should have pulled those Max Crosby comments. He was on some podcast. It feels like every player has a podcast at this point, but he was like, yeah, it was that critical situation. I stunted around him. He couldn't keep up with me. And Lamar, before he even knew what was happening, his ass was in the dirt. And you got 2nd and 19 to start that critical drive.
Late in the game, key moment. Should tell you a lot about your play calls. It should tell you a lot about your personnel. And that's the self-evaluation that needs to occur. So learn from it, grow from it, move on. And all eyes will be on the right side of the Ravens offensive line. Chris Long, huge podcast. He has 265,000 followers on YouTube, subscribers on YouTube talking about that. I didn't expect that to happen. All the local folk have been talking about what's happening at right guard. So you've got eyes on you. Does not help when your offensive line coach, unfortunately, does pass away. It's tough to make those adjustments, but that's why coaches get paid pretty big bucks too. And we got a comment here. Max Crosby said he talked to Wilkins right before the snap and said, let's hit it. And he said he saw Daniel and just swarmed past him. Easy money. So easy money, man. Easy money to rush there. Easy money to stunt there. Didn't see nearly that level of stunts out of the Cowboys. We can get into the Cowboys a little bit more so here. And looking back we talked about the Raiders. We always like to take a look back into the historical matchups. I would guess that the Cowboys are maybe the least played opponent in Ravens history. I could probably find that if I dug for it. But the Cowboys and Ravens played in 2000. They played every 4 years since 2000. Didn't play in the 90s once. 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. The Ravens lead the series 5-1. Have only lost once. That came in Dak Prescott's rookie year, 2016. That was when the Cowboys really broke out and looked like a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, the Ravens. I remember that game. They drove right down the field on that first drive, and it was like, oh boy, and that was like a must-have win. I think Steve Smith might have had a touchdown or something, and it got away from them from there. Let's just say that.
Certainly did. So that was the one time the Cowboys won. The last game played was during the COVID season in 2020. The Ravens put it on the Cowboys, who were with Cooper Rush at that point. Dak, I believe, had the broken ankle, 34-17. The Ravens, of course, as we talked about in the Jumbo set, famously closed down the stadium. You mentioned the homecoming and the final game there before the Cowboys opened Jerry World, where they ran all over them, that famous LeRon McClain rumble to put that game on ice. Run the ball well against the Cowboys in this I've got a million sirens out here by me. Have run the ball really well throughout this kind of not storied history between these two teams. And the Cowboys have been utter dog shit against the run. It's terrible. So formula's right there for you, right there for the Ravens. It should be, but we have always enjoyed the Cowboys, and I think we really enjoy the intensity of this matchup, which we didn't quite anticipate looking at the schedule.
Yeah, interesting. Ravens, I'm looking at this NFL Plus. It says they're first in defense. I don't know if this is just yards, but it's kind of that opening page. Cowboys 17th, or first in offense, actually. That would be
Ravens lead the NFL in yards offensively. Cowboys 17th in yards offensively.
Yeah. So defense, Ravens 15th, Cowboys 19th. Passing, Ravens 4th, Cowboys 9th. Rushing, Ravens 7th, Cowboys 25th.
Cowboys run defense is utterly flawed. I guess I can pull up the clips.
Oh boy. Looks like folks, this is just kind of what happens when you're doing it live here. He was pulling up his clips. He's back now, and here we are.
So a little dupe there for a second. I hit 2 fingers instead of 3 as I was going through. But yeah, I wanted to take a look at this Cowboys team for a couple minutes here. I've got like 6-7 clips pulled up talking about their offensive kind of weirdness first and foremost. And you guys should be seeing it pull up now. Early on in this one, they get CeeDee Lamb on linebackers. This is what the Ravens have struggled with. This is what teams are doing. We see a slant flat combo. You can call this dragon, 2 slants with a flat route underneath of it. And the Saints linebackers kind of let CeeDee Lamb run right through. Everybody bites on the fake there. and you see CeeDee Lamb given wide open spaces. Ravens have already seen this ordeal go down, as of course there's just a complete mayhem going on outside me.
Yeah, does somebody have like a 5-star wanted level out there?
I suppose so. So yeah, we just see easy money getting CeeDee Lamb on those linebackers. Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams. We talked about the middle of the field, about that second level, about where the Raiders are going to go in the ball in a key situation. They're going to throw it to Adams. It's going to be a dig. It's going to be an in-breaker. It's going to be trying to match up your receiver on a not cornerback. So you need to have a little deception there. That's where you maybe want to see a rat drop down into the hole. Something that the Ravens have, I will say, given their opponents a little bit more so. Keep plays in front of you. That's kind of the theme of the NFL right now, is emphasizing those safeties and linebackers, the middle of the field, and that is the primary theme. Not a lot of juice going on here otherwise for the Cowboys. Their offense, it's Doug Peterson, it's Mike McCarthy. It just feels like these offenses are stuck in 2017, back when they were cooking with gas. So now we see them, I call this the end around in the red zone after that CeeDee Lamb catch. All right, we're gonna go try and get a guy in space on the little end around. Teams are not fooled by it anymore. The Saints weren't fooled by it. It is being run by every team in every game. It is insane how frequently this is being run. Saints do a great job just keeping the eye candy away, staying level, winning their blocks on the outside, stringing it out. You see the staggered defense there. So next play, it's like, all right, well, that didn't work. So now let's go empty things out. And the Cowboys don't have a big physical pass catcher. Jake Ferguson, who's been banged up, I believe he resumed practicing today. We'll take a look at the injury report in a moment. So now they go empty. They're like, all right, let's go empty instead. And they just run verts. And the Saints just stay. There's not space to run verts. They just run 5 verts. They don't really attack the middle of the field much. Nowhere to go with the football. There's one little window Dak starts to get to, and by the time he gets to it, there's pressure already there. So what the fuck are you trying to do here? I don't really understand going empty and running verts like that. Something we saw Greg Roman do a lot that was bad. Running verts all the time. It worked at first. It's not helping anymore. We talk about the Ravens wanting to use 5-0 protection. We see the Cowboys do it, get hit with a spin move, nowhere to go with the ball, nothing over the middle of the field, which is where the void is in this coverage. They don't check into something good and go take a sack in the red zone. They've been awful in the red zone. So offensively, wanted to stop there. And, I just don't see rhythm, really, is the big theme here before we get into the Cowboys defense. Not seeing a ton of rhythm. Not seeing rhythm in the Ravens offensive pass game either, when we're going to get to the Saints offense. But rhythm, not there. They don't know who they want to be. They don't have a dynamic runner. Their offensive line is not what it used to be. They used to have Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Frederick at center, all these beasts. Tyler Smith has been a good player. Terrence Steele, they paid a good bit of money. They've got rookie Tyler Guyton on the other side. He's struggling a ton. So they can't really impose their will on you. It kind of reminds me of like the Bills from maybe 2 and 3 and 4 years ago, but Dak can't run and he chooses not to. We just talked about it right before we got on, Jake. Dak never wants to scoot. And it was weird because Mississippi State, he was such a scooter. He was, you said, what was your comment?
I remember that Mississippi State season with him pretty clearly because I was still in college at the time. I think that might've been my senior year as well. And I think it might have been a game against LSU. He was just busting runs left and right. And like me and my buddy Adam, I remember vividly, were like, this guy's Tebow, like straight up. He can throw a little bit better, but he's just kind of Tebow. And that was like I remember some people, it might have been some draft analysts made that comparison too. But then like the chatter on him, as it happens with quarterbacks, and this has become more of a frequent phenomenon, we're like, yeah, but he can probably develop into a little bit better of a passer. And I think Matt Miller ultimately was the one who was like, yeah, like I got a high 2nd round grade on him. Like this guy could really turn into something. And I think he winds up going in the 4th round that year, and Romo gets hurt. He enters the lineup. He lit up that preseason, I remember very vividly, and he enters the lineup and right away they just broke out. And if I remember correctly, he did run pretty, a good amount his rookie year, but you're right. It does feel like, and maybe since that kind of devastating ankle injury, it feels like there's been a lot less of that. It feels like he's been a little more, I wouldn't say gun shy, but he is kind of doing the Russell Wilson thing, the prime Russell Wilson thing, where you scramble around, but it's in aid of eventually throwing the ball and doing that scramble drill, fire drill, whatever you want to call it, find an open receiver, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of like what I talk about with Lamar a little bit. Like sometimes you just got to cut it loose and just say, look, I am the best overall athlete on the field right now. It might not always even be true with Dak, but like if he could just do that a little bit more, it probably would benefit the Cowboys a good bit.
Certainly. Luke Yates here with a great point. The coordinator for the Cowboys was who taught his college coach the air raid there in back in college. So yeah,
it's a Dan Mullen guy, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Mississippi State.
So not a dynamic offense, man. The Browns defense is good. They can chunk you. I mean, see, you look at the Raiders. The Raiders have a Bowers presence over the middle of the field. Cowboys don't have that. Not really the running backs. I would probably take the Raiders group. Zamir White, ultra physical, had 5 pancakes blocking last week. Madison, I think, has more juice than anyone on the Cowboys does. Dowdle is a running back. Zeke can do things. Zeke will do the right thing. He can block well. He will hit the right hole. He can get a first down. He's a consistent option out of the backfield. They work Deuce Vaughn in a little bit, but just not a unit that scares anyone at all. They don't have some hulking tight end. Brandon Cooks is a nice veteran receiver on the outside. Tolbert made a couple plays super late. They were getting drummed at that point. So you just aren't scared. I mean, you're not scared by this offense. Dak is a nice quarterback. He is smart. He runs the show. I just think they're kind of running an offense that would do really well if he was a plus athlete, and he's not. He is a average athlete back there. He can get the ball out underneath. He can run a 2-minute drill. It feels like he can get his guys lined up and things like that. So I just don't think they have a physical presence downfield. They work Turpin a lot on little motion, jet motion. Is it going to be, they'll bluff a little RPO kind of deal with him. They'll hand him the ball, things like that. He doesn't really run downfield routes yet. So that's definitely something you want to watch out for. When are they going to bite you with the Turpin open field ability or getting him moving ahead of the snap and trying to get him downfield? Sure, but I just think it's going to be hard. It doesn't look smooth ever for the Cowboys offense, and it doesn't look modern. It doesn't look like another big thing, the Bowers. There's a lot of these, the wind back end around. There's like the wind back tight end, leak and go back to the 7 route, hit that bang corner, and we've seen teams using that a lot as well. So just not scaring you. I mean, they have a big touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, Dak throws into a tight window. CeeDee walks a tightrope, ducks, shrinks down, and walks and scores a long touchdown. Other than that, there's nothing going in this game from them. So not super impressed.
Yeah, and you mentioned the kind of keep it in front of you type deal, and it does feel like that's what the Ravens have been doing to an extent, certainly against the Chiefs. I think they were, as much as we were belly aching about the stuff Rashee Rice was doing, I think they were content to let them have that, and then they tightened up in the red zone. It goes all the way back to Dean Pease, right? Bend but don't break. And I've had my fun with that over the years of like, why even bend? And like, really, I'm just sort of, like I said, just having fun with that because like in the modern NFL, like you kind of have to bend. Like for the most part, week to week, it could even be a bad offense. Like these offenses are going to get theirs because this game is just more wide open than it used to be. And it's easier to just, either scheme guys up or just have guys open right off the jump and extend your run game that kind of way. So it could be another type of game where the Ravens kind of just let them have that stuff in the middle of the field. They let them take the easy ones, but when it's time to tighten up, they tighten up in the red zone and they try to win a close game here. I think we'll obviously get into predictions much later on, but that's sort of the type of game flow that I think the Ravens are going to have to be hoping for.
Certainly. So well said. We can go take a look over at the I wanted to skip along here. There we go. So we can take a look at the Cowboys defense a little bit. I mean, the Saints just lined up in heavy personnel and beat the crap out of them. Here's one thing I wanted to make a point about. Ravens haven't had this. You and I are looking at some stuff earlier of Ravens kind of downfield threats. We talked about Chris Long's comments that they don't quite have this. Lamar's only completed 1 pass over 20 air yards so far. And Rashid Shaheed here is just simply going to run through the middle of these 2 safeties. He is just simply going to run through. They kind of don't think the ball is going to come out, taking weird paths, and Derek Carr puts enough mustard on it, and he just runs away. And it's lazy. There was lazy defense all week. Do the Ravens have this? Is this in your bag? Can you split the defenders? Who are you going to ask to do that? We were thinking maybe Devontae Walker here is kind of the guy that could come in and be that long strider. Nelson Aguilar, not really the downfield threat he once was. Zay Flowers, we have seen do this. Zay Flowers is a smaller dude, though. Shaheed's like 6'1", long strider, a little bit bigger catch radius. Bateman is supposed to be this guy, but he's not as fast as Shaheed. He can't straight up just burn, especially since that foot injury. So that'll loosen you up, right? That'll lube you up as a defense. Oh, they're just going to rip it downfield against our safeties. And that's what everyone keeps talking about this week. Oh, ban too high, ban this, ban that. You got to just throw the ball sometimes. If you want to beat it, you got to throw it over top. You can still do it. You can still rip the go routes. You can still rip the deep post. You got to just do the damn thing.
And Lamar's had the opportunity, I think, through these first 2 games to make a few of these throws, and not to criticize him too much because he's been put in a tough spot with this offensive line. But you look at a miss to Likely in that Chiefs game. I think you look at the kind of sale on Andrews this past week against the Raiders. And obviously you're talking about a different type of play conceptually, where you're talking about a bigger bodied guy going up and making the kind of rebound. But Lamar didn't even really put it in the spot for those guys to be able to do that on those particular throws. You're talking more about opening it up with a Zay Flowers, where, I mean, 1 year ago, almost to the day, that was a week 2 game against the Bengals where Lamar lets one fly to Zay Flowers. And he does have 2 safeties in on him tight, but Zay goes up and makes the catch. And I think it's a little bit about faith too, of just letting it rip and seeing if you can get one of those, because I think if you do hit one of those early, that could set a really good tenor for the game offensively, because it'll open things up underneath for an offense that could use a little bit more space down there right now.
Yeah, timing is the big issue to me, and faith is the word. Derek Carr had faith in that throw. He ripped it. He just ripped it. And you mentioned that Zay Flowers play against the Bengals. Lamar just ripped it. You got to just rip it. Just rip it. To quote, not Carmi, who's what was the brother's name in the Bear?
It's, what is his
Mikey?
Name? Mikey, yeah, Mikey Bear. Yeah, I love
Mikey
you.
Bear.
Let it rip.
Let it rip. There you go. Love you. Let it rip. So speaking of letting it rip, the Cowboys are letting the Saints here get a huge numbers advantage. The way, and we can get into the player breakdown. Everyone's crucifying the defensive tackles, the linebackers, and I definitely get it, especially on the linebackers. The numbers advantage here is bad. We're looking at 1, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, who can block, and 3 linemen. And then what do we got on the Cowboys defense here? The Saints are going to motion a 7th body, including Kamara. This is 7 bodies on 4 bodies here. We're going to see 35 make a play across. This is what their Cowboys are going to need to do. This could have been a bigger run. Kamara probably could have followed a little bit to the outside there behind 75. 35 runs the alley here, but that's free. That was a free 3-4 yards. Absolutely free. Linebackers are put in a pickle just pre-snap. Can that be on them? Yeah, sure. This is Mike Zimmer defense here. Zimmer, spending time at Colorado. The Saints did a good job. What is Mike Zimmer known for? Pressure. Pressure looks, blitzing, mugging, cover 0, all that stuff. Kind of like the zone Wink Martindale. So linebackers put in a weird spot there. Staying out of letting Zimmer get into pressure looks, I think, is big. Here, I don't know what the linebackers are doing. I don't know what anyone's doing. There's no pursuit. Kamara is deceptively fast. He does always look like he's jogging, but untouched off just a little basic screen. Untouched. We'll get a better look here from the end zone. Again, we can see the numbers. Now they're like, all right, to the strength of the formation, we've got kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys aligned. Still, you can get a hat on a hat and there's a back, but now we just see a basic little screen, and it's clean. It's in rhythm. I don't want to undersell the Saints selling this, but what is 21 doing? What is 28 doing? What is 6 doing? Move your feet. They're watching. They're just watching. Like, this is what is the Twitter account of the dude that does like the film room after the game, and he just is like, 31 took your sister out to lunch, read the newspaper. What are you doing here? Your girlfriend called you. You went and bought her a purse, like all that stuff. That's what I feel like I'm watching here.
Moment was too big, pissed down his leg.
Moment was too big, pissed down his leg. Like, they don't even piss. They just don't even turn. Like, I don't know. I do not know what the hell's going on. Then wanted to talk about a play that the Ravens run a lot. This same side kind of toss. We've seen Henry get this a ton in Tennessee. We saw Henry have one of these against the Ravens. I don't know if it was in London last year. Ravens ran it last week. Same side. So we're going to see Kamara in the backfield. He's aligned wide. That kind of is a pass indicator to me. So you're like, all right, I'm going to pin my ears back. Nope. They are just going to pop the ball out to Kamara. They're going to seal inside, and look at this perfect staggered wall of linemen coming downfield. You've got a lead blocker for Kamara. This is when the Saints are up big. He just tiptoes out of bounds. There are multiple runs in this game when they are up big where they had it. It was in the bag. If you're in a close game for some reason, they're mugged up. That's a Zimmer look there. You're getting pass indicators. Nope, just flip the ball, pull some dudes. Kamara just kind of is like, all right, I'm good. Henry is rumbling on you there, absolutely rumbling. And this is the same thing. I said this is just sad. You see Shaheed come in motion. This is just sad football. Just fucking sad. I don't know. There's no pursuit. Micah Parsons' comments to me are so truthful. This is not, especially in week 2, this is not the effort you're looking to put forth. Kind of reminds you maybe of that Browns game against the Ravens when Baker Mayfield said make them throw the ball. Ravens are just chickens with their heads cut off. Their linebackers don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, they're up big already. Just walking into the end zone. Nobody is making any spectacular effort. So how do I stop presenting this video? I need to get it out of here. There we go. So get that out. Just sad, man. Just absolutely sad. Luke Yates here says that I noticed the DBs are a non-factor in the run game. They are not a factor. There is no savior on the back seven. There is not a Roquan Smith. There is not a Fred Warner. There is not a Minkah Fitzpatrick. There is no one that is like foaming at the mouth to get to the football at all costs. It's the exact opposite. These are all house cats. They all played like house cats. Their DBs are sitting in these split safety looks and just kind of watching the game go by. I would be floored to see that happen 2 games in a row. I would be floored. I don't know. I know who Mike Zimmer is, and I've watched lots of content of him. He was into the content game a little bit. You know he's going apeshit, bananas, bonkers in that film room throughout practice. Micah Parsons clearly pissed off. He's a savior. Tank Lawrence is a savior. He'll make the above and beyond effort. No one else was. The linebackers are just getting washed out. The numbers are off. Deuce blocks are easy. The zone run game was easy. So see if they can stop it, man. And here's my Todd Monken get out of your own way. Ravens had 2 big runs with Derrick Henry, zone, pushing the ball out to the sideline. Make them stop it. And just because they stop it once, that's fine. Make them stop it again. It's a small defense. You have in the comments, small linebackers. It's a small defense. Small. They look small. They look timid. I want to see Likely get after it. I want to see them tackle Isaiah Likely. I think he has to be a huge factor in this game. We didn't see them emphasize him at all, really. Part of what I think made Likely have such a good stat line against the Chiefs was 2-minute drill, especially at the end. He had 3 catches real quick. Quick 25 yards on 3 catches. That'll juice up the stat line. But he's the best, most dangerous guy after the catch you have, I would say. Zay Flowers can do some definitely special things, but Isaiah Likely is a madman. He is a yak rack demon right now and has been throughout his college career, throughout last year, throughout this year. Work him in space. Manufacture 3-4 touches to him. Get him going. Run the ball to the outside. See if you can loosen him up a little bit. I mean, let's talk about the fact that the Saints don't have a mobile quarterback, right? I thought I said the Cowboys. Saints don't have a mobile quarterback. That's another threat for the Cowboys to now account for. Should be easy, man. It should be easy. And just because they stop it once does not mean you have to go away from it. You don't have to get into the unpredictable. It's like they're spinning a big wheel to stay random. They're spinning a wheel with plays on it, and they're just pulling a new play off. Like, oh, how can we be so unpredictable? Just run the damn ball, punish them on the outside, make those DBs and linebackers run and hit. You have Derrick Henry. You just watch Kamara tear them up. Saints do have a better offensive line. I will say the Saints are operationally much cleaner. They're more in rhythm. But make the Cowboys stop the run. And that's where you'll watch, okay, what if you fumble the football and lose the ball? What if there's a strip sack? What if there's a tip pass interception? Get back into it. Do not let anything knock the rhythm of making them stop the football, making them tackle Isaiah Likely, making them tackle Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry. Run Justice Hill on some zone out of pistol. Run Justice Hill, who's quick as shit.
Have some pride in who you are and what you want to do. Derrick Henry was a statement signing. And I think some people maybe didn't like the fact that they're getting back to, we're a big physical running offense. But that's what you wanted to be, right? That's why you signed him. That's what you're trying to identify yourself as. And having pride in who you are, it doesn't necessarily mean force feeding him on first down and trying to set a tone that way. But you signed him to be a 3rd and 2 team. Get yourself into 3rd and 2, get yourself into 4th and inches and pound the rock and just get back to that idea of we're going to get ahead in the count. And listen, maybe we will strike out when we get down to a 4th and inches, but that's okay. We're just going to get ourselves into manageable situations. We're going to manage the game. We're going to control the clock. We're going to control the ball. We're going to hopefully win the turnover battle. They signed Derrick Henry to get back to a more simple kind of basic idea. And we talk all about, we've talked all about even in this podcast about the fact that things are kind of cycling back towards the running game because defenses are smaller. The NFL is cyclical. We're getting back to that point. It should be easier than ever for you. And whatever you have to do, if you have to be creative, if you have to get the ball to Likely a little bit more, if you have to get Zay Flowers on some easy touches to get yourself into 2nd and 5, to get yourself into 3rd and 1, just get ahead in the count and just simplify the game. And I think I feel like they did a pretty good job of that against the Chiefs. And then against the Raiders, the tone just was not set early. They just looked a little frantic. They looked a little bit like I said in the Jumbo set, it looked like they were just trying to get through that one. And it looked like they were messing around with some stuff. And they were like, all right, we'll see if we can, it's 3rd and, 2nd and 11. Let's see if we can mix Flowers and let's see if we can hit a big throw here. And they just overcomplicated it for themselves a little bit. You've got this dynamic quarterback, to your point, that the Saints really don't have. You've got Derrick Henry, you've got Justice Hill, you've got Isaiah Likely, you've got Zay Flowers. Like, set yourself up, make it easier to get yourself in a position where, like I'm going to keep coming back to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and inches. You've got the horses, hopefully, to go ahead and convert in those situations. So put yourself there and hopefully profit.
Should have easy numbers advantages with motion. I just want to see rhythm. I want to see 5 guys, 7 guys coming off the ball. I want to see Lamar hitting the top of his drop off a play action, getting the ball out quick, throwing with faith, like you said. That's what it's all about, man. Good offense is committed to the play, to the plan, as a caller, as a quarterback, as a receiver, as a lineman. Commit. We have not seen the Ravens commit. I do believe we're going to see scoring tick up across the NFL, and I want to see the Ravens be at the forefront of that. These first 2 games very much feel like extensions of camp in preseason. We talked about Rosengarten. Feels like they extended his camp. Feels like there wasn't contact. The practices are limited. So when you've got new faces on your offensive line, you've got two games now to get it right, to fire off the ball, to be simultaneous and a unit, a collective, a squadron. Be military, be militant in your execution together and your confidence of the play, everything, everyone. Starts with the coaches, trickles to the quarterback, trickles down to the punter. And I will say that goes hand in hand. And I do not want to skim by. This will be the last we'll talk of the Raiders game for a bit here, as we're going to get some new football after this show. That punt broke the Ravens. I mean, a 24-yard punt net after a 5-yard penalty after getting stuff like that is just demoralizing. If you want to run the football, you got to fucking bang punts. And that's why they drafted Jordan Stout. We've seen it. We've seen him punt well. They said it was a mechanical issue Harbaugh did in press availability this week. So if you fail and you get to 3rd and 4 and run the ball and it's 4th and 3 and you're on the 35, bang it, man. Bang it. Horton said it was I did not see that. Horton said it was a bad snap.
Then snap it better.
Dial in, lock in. Nick Moore, they brought you back. Dial in. Can't have those mishaps on special teams, man. So Turpin, very dangerous as a returner. Would like to see that they use two returners a lot. Do not kick it to Turpin. They might do a little end around or something. Do not kick it to Turpin. Turpin has been electric. He's arguably the best returner in the NFL. Do not kick it to Turpin. Man. Yeah. Great comments all from Electrician 412 YouTube here. If you want to be a good punter, you got to handle bad snaps. If you want to be a good quarterback, you got to, manage when there's pressure. Same thing about playing football, playing any sport. Got to overcome adversity technically and be calm there. So, man, can't let that one. This is the loser leaves town. Whoever you see when the critical moment happens, whether it's a turnover, a penalty, a big play, whoever lets it snowball loses this game.
And we have 2 coaches here that are maybe at this point a little bit infamous for the 1,000-yard stare and weird in-game decision-making. Win that aspect of it too, John Harbaugh. Like I said, like that, I am as frustrated with him as I have probably ever been, because that Raiders game, like, that's on you, man. Like you got to be able to handle those types of games. That's why you're there. You're there to raise the floor. You are not there to burn the house down, as Mike Tomlin likes to say. You are not there to pull the rug out from under your own team. Keep the challenge flag in your pocket a little bit more, particularly in the second half. I think, like I said, it probably cost them in the first.
Save your challenges and timeouts till the end of the game.
Yes. You have to, like, if you're going to play this clock control, ball control type game, the clock is pretty important too. And having control over it vis-a-vis your timeouts and your challenges, That's really critical too. And it's bitten them so far this year. And that's just another thing that's got to be cleaned up. And that goes on John Harbaugh.
It does. In the first half, if you want to burn a timeout defensively to get out of a bad look, fine. Second half, I want to see unless, if the Ravens are able to blow this game up and go stomp them out, whatever, I don't care. But if it's a close game in the second half, do not call a timeout. Leave Lamar Jackson 3 timeouts for the end of the game. Against the Chiefs, drove right down the field, needed a little bit more time, almost got the game-tying, game-winning, game-losing, whatever they're going to do for 2, almost got it. Had no time, still fit that ball to Isaiah Likely. 2-minute drill, 3 timeouts. 2-minute drill, 3 timeouts. 3 timeouts. Not 2, not 1, 3 timeouts at the end of the game.
They burned 2 of those in that Chiefs game on defense too. And it's like, it's just, you can't put yourself in that spot. Like, this is, like you said, this is all hands on deck. This is dire straits. It's loser leaves town. It's the shootout at high noon. Like, you got to have every tool in the toolkit here. And that means absolutely emphasizing that.
I feel like a lot of what we've done is like, sit on our high horse and tell everyone what to do. But we never do that. And that should tell you how dire things are with that right now. Like, I am very much always looking through the lens of, well, we don't know about this. We don't know about that. Play action is the simplest thing you can do to be better. The simplest thing is to make play action a huge emphasis on that syllable, as you like to say. Right. So play action, run the ball to the outside, run some zone, stay in the pistol, simplify the offense, right? Trim fat, then expand out your wrinkles again. You basically got the fattiest cut of meat, all the fixins. You had this big sloppy offense running around, throwing every player out there. Justice Hill, Derrick Henry, pistol, shotgun, boot. Everything. The fixins. What about the fixins, Kenny? So, man, simplify it. John Harbaugh. This is like what he has always been for the Ravens. Mitigating those bad stretches, keeping them from going 0-3, not losing back-to-back games often, not getting blown out, being in the end of the game. You've lost 3 straight. I will give you 2 of those were Patrick Mahomes, but now is time. If you are John Harbaugh, that was a killer, that was the bright young thing, if any semblance of that man is still there from what the Ravens were 10 years ago, football has changed, but anything left in the tank, this is your game. This is who you're supposed to be. This is who you have been. If you've got anything in the tank, this is show me. Show me, John Harbaugh, that you are who you're supposed to be. And we mentioned playing with faith, and you mentioned being militant. If there are 2 things in this world that I know John Harbaugh loves, it's faith and the military. So it makes me want to punch myself in the head. How are you not? That's his thing. He's a Napoleon guy. He's a Sun Tzu guy. He's a football coach. He loves the military, a big affinity for it. So why are you not the stoic figure? Why are you not the steely-eyed resolve at the end of these games, John? Are you okay? Are you okay, John? Cry like you were. I mean, if last week was if you need some help, he'd be sending his guys into a snowdrift and just getting absolutely wiped out. That's what that would have been. So let's maybe look at some famous battles of history and see if we can dial in our tactics a little bit here. That's the kind of message to the team that I want. I want like the Roman. I want the 300. I want Leonidas. I want something that's way more niche in history than that. Of some little, hey, back against the wall, and these guys got out of it by doing this, by quieting the noise. They stormed Normandy. They whatever the hell, raid you have from. They draw them into the canyon. Just pick them off one by one. Make the Cowboys make mistakes. Well, there you go. There you go. That's the message here. So need that John. Need militant John, confident John, fist pumping John, all of those Johns. That's what the message needs to be. So, man, I mean, sharks in the water. Cowboys just got cut deep. They're going to come out angry. They're going to come out firing to the ball. Maybe you can use that against them early. I mean, man, just can't you just run a little play action and run some Louque to Mark Andrews or to Likely or to Kohler? Can't you just hit some shots to the tight ends down the sideline early? Let Lamar throw it out, throw it away, take a sack, run, scramble. Like, leak these tight ends out. Make these linebackers be disciplined. Use what you just saw the Raiders do 2 straight games against the Cowboys. You just saw what they did with Brock Bowers. First play deep shot. I mean, yeah, could be. Make them stay disciplined early. So, yeah, everybody thinks they're going to want to come out and run Derrick Henry. So then you can get into the whole chess of, well, we could take a deep shot, but maybe they think that we're going to take a deep shot because they think that. So you can do that whole prism, but play action, man. Get after it.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else before we jump into predictions?
No, I'm ready to hop into predictions here. I think the total is 48.5 in this game. Pretty high scoring. They expect to be high scoring on the turf inside. Man, the Ravens I feel like they haven't been running away in domes from teams in the last couple of years. Cardinals was a tough game. Colts, they've had some tough games. Lions, they've had a tough game. What else we got dome-wise over the last couple of years? I feel like I don't really remember them kicking the shit out of anybody in a dome.
Falcons in Lamar's rookie year. That was
a long time ago. And that was kind of tough too.
But they ran it down.
Chargers last year was a game till the end.
Who was?
The Chargers last year when they had the Zay Flowers late touchdown, everybody's pissed at him, all that stuff. It's been close games in domes. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a close game. I've never seen Lamar Jackson lose 3 straight games. I've never seen John Harbaugh with a competent situation at quarterback. He did it once in opened the season 0-3 in 2015. That was a weird team. Had some tough games. I've never seen it happen. I'm going to take the Ravens to win this one. I think the Ravens score 3 touchdowns in this one, and they kick a field goal. Put that at 24. I think the Cowboys can probably score 1, maybe 2 touchdowns, kick 2, maybe 3 field goals. I'm going to say, maybe I'm going to put this at 26-20 Ravens.
Yeah, I got low scoring as well. I am going to pick the Ravens in the spot as well. I could very much see it not going their way, and if it doesn't, then man, this is going to be a long year. And because of that, I think they've been in not this spot before, but they've been in similar situations where their backs have been against the wall. I think of that 2020 season where they really, after that COVID hit them in the middle of the year, they were 7-6. They had to gut it out and fight their way. Or I think they were maybe 6-5, 7-5. Ultimately, they really had to gut it out and just fight their way to 11-5, ran the table. So they've kind of been here before. I think Lamar Jackson has a lot of pride. I think he does not want to fall to 0-3. I think he does not want to lose 3 games in a row. And ultimately, I'm not expecting it to look all that pretty. To your point, I think it is going to be, kind of a slugfest. I would probably take the under on that. I'm going to go Ravens score 2 touchdowns, kick 3 field goals, give them a 23-21 victory over the Cowboys here. They walk out of this one feeling maybe a little bit better about things after kind of a disastrous week 2 loss there. And they go into Buffalo feeling a little bit of a shot, an opportunity to get back to 500 and get back in this thing.
Underrated narrative. Derrick Henry rumored to, be in talks with the Cowboys as well. I'm going to say Derrick Henry, I think his rushing totals in the 80s, low 80s, floating around there. I'm going to say he rumbles pretty big time here on the turf. He always looks really good on turf. He can put his cleats in the ground and get going here. So I think that we see, Cowboys, of whatever I just said. Derrick Henry Cowboys was a big thing. So I think that's kind of hey, maybe I could see Cowboys fans being miserable. Hey, maybe we should have signed Derrick Henry instead of Zeke and Rico Dowdle and all that crap. So I think Henry rumbles in this one. I think he puts up 100 yards. I think they get him a screen out in space or something like that, and he rips a little bit. I think he has a monster game here. Looking for these tight ends to be scoring touchdowns. Looking for Mark Andrews, big physical presence here to be going up, ripping some touchdowns. Really want to see 3 touchdowns in this game. Really, really, really want to see 3 touchdowns. I think that if the Ravens score 3 touchdowns, they definitely win this one. So, Henry, man, go make a play.
Absolutely. All right. That'll do it.
That'll do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging in here with us in this preview of one of the more dire games of the John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson era. Probably the most dire game.
The most dire early regular season game. We can say that for sure.
Yeah, we've never been here in week 3. That's absolutely for sure. So yeah, it'll be a tough one. It'll be a fun one. I think we're very, very keen to see what happens in this 425 America's Game of the Week. Tom Brady on the call time slot. So yeah, exciting stuff, dread-inducing stuff. We'll certainly see what happens, but we'll be there all the way through, and we'll be there to recap it after it on Sunday night as well. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging with us. We'll talk to you then. If you liked what you heard on this, go ahead and subscribe to us here on YouTube. It helps us out a lot. Spread the word. Word of mouth is one of the better ways to spread a podcast and help it grow. So go ahead and tell a friend about the Exit 52 podcast if you like what you heard. You can find us on social media at Exit 52 Podcast across the board. That's on X and on Instagram. I am at Jake Louque. That's Louque. Spenny is at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle there.
Can I ask one question? All right. We're going to be watching the game together. If the Ravens start to crumble, do I drink a beer?
I'm kind of wondering, do you just do it like before the game? And just like crack your first one before kickoff?
Let me know in the chat right now if you're with us. Jake, put your opinion. If we see yeses, do I break the beer? Do I have a beer before the game? Give me something here. Or do I remain strong? Do I remain steadfast?
I would say yes. I mean, like you got to break the tendency, right? You got to break the mojo.
I feel like I'm being tested very much so. I want to hold strong. So okay. We'll see.
Listen, this is your path that you have to walk. People can't tell you what to do. You have to look into your heart and decide stand and be true, as I like to say. Well, that's my guy Stephen King likes to say that, but stand and be true to yourself.
All right, we got some feedback in here. Shotgun one at kickoff. I'm gonna ponder. We'll see. Okay.
All right. Well, that's big. You can find Eric at EDITTI22. Quick update on the Orioles. Sorry we haven't been able to go live for the last couple series. It's been very busy, obviously, with the Ravens kicking off. We wanted to do one tonight, obviously, after the walk-off home run by Anthony Santander. Eric could not do it because he was at Jimmy's Seafood right now hosting an event with Anthony Santander. So that's pretty cool stuff for him. I'm sure we'll get plenty of that. We'll talk a little bit more Orioles here. Hopefully things will turn around. Their magic number for the playoffs is 5 right now. Hopefully they get a little bit of help. And they have a good series here against the Tigers. So we'll obviously be rooting for that. You can find Brian at Barstool Banks, Taylor at Taylor Smythe 10, and that will do it for us. You guys have yourselves a good weekend, and we'll talk to you again on Sunday evening.
See ya.
Arrivederci.